Welcome to Tarot Live, class number 5. We're going to be doing a deep dive today into one card because I think this card merits it. So we're going to be working today with the Hierophant. My purpose in these lives is to give you a feel for the energy of the card. Yes, there's a little bit of memorization involved, but seeing the cards and the energy they represent and seeing how they compare to other cards in the deck really helps you. So the Hierophant is Major Arcana card number 5. And it's a very interesting card because it's one of the cards I don't really like. I have trouble relating to it. There's a very strong patriarchal kind of energy to the Hierophant. At one time, there used to be a bishop on this card representing tradition, authority, religious hierarchy, those kinds of things. And I think over the years it's been mellowed somewhat, but at the same time, it's a difficult card. This card corresponds to the astrological sign of Taurus, which is a very grounded sign. And in some traditions, the Hierophant is referred to as the gatekeeper. You see him sitting between the two pillars. And the key words for him: tradition, morality, conformity, status quo, religious beliefs, sacredness, transfer of knowledge, advice. So what a lot of people want to take from this when they read the Hierophant is spiritual teacher. And yes, that's one aspect to the Hierophant, but you can't ignore his other aspects. And the symbols are pretty clear. There's a series of 3s if you look closely in this card. There's it's not a wand, but his scepter type thing that he's holding. There's a 3 there. There's the 3 crosses going down the front of his suit. But there's just a series of 3s. He's wearing 3 robes. So the 3s here represent the 3 realms that he deals with: the conscious, the subconscious, and the higher self. He basically brings all those 3 elements together. That's part of the spiritual religious teachings that he does. You'll see that his robe looks like the robe that a priest would have. You see he has crossed keys down at the bottom, and these represent access to hidden knowledge, unlocking spiritual mysteries. And you'll see the 2 students that are kneeling down to him, seeking his advice, seeking his input, seeking his wisdom. Roses and lilies represents their sincerity and purity of heart. So in a reading, when the Hierophant appears, it can mean a lot of different things. Usually it represents a male figure who is a bastion of tradition, of doing things the way they've always been done. Somebody who fits in with societal norms very heavily and wants them passed down to other generations. So the teaching, the style of teaching, is a teaching of form, etiquette type of teaching, and of lore of the past. It's not the kind of teaching where you're eliciting a response in the students. It's not eliciting any kind of new information or new vision for the students. There's no give and take. I see this card a lot in readings where there is a woman in a relationship with an extremely strong, narrow-minded male. It happens in readings again and again. When I see this, I know the kind of man she's dealing with. So that's one aspect to this card. How the Hierophant would be as the father or husband figure in a family or a relationship. Another way this comes out and emerges is a boss at work when we're looking at some type of career or job problem. How hard it is when you're dealing with the Hierophant, because he doesn't want to change things up. He's not interested in new ideas. He just wants people to do what's always been done. So in some ways, this card can really represent a block. Now, the positive side to this card can come when it emerges in a romantic relationship where the couple is thinking of marriage. This is showing a partner or partners who are contemplating a traditional style marriage, monogamy, or raising a family. So sometimes, depending on the placement in a reading, that's one of the positive things that this card can mean. Also, in a reading where somebody is starting their spiritual path, the Hierophant represents finding a teacher. A teacher who can unlock, see those keys, the hidden mysteries. Somebody who can teach you the techniques. Somebody who can share with you the traditional approaches on this spiritual path, especially for people who want to be initiated into some type of spiritual group. This can be a positive figure for them. This represents the teaching and the guidance that they need to be initiated or to try a certain kind of magic or spiritual path. For me, it's always been a thorny card. I think one of the ways to understand the Hierophant is to compare him to some of the other cards. So one of the cards that's similar but different is the Emperor, are very similar energies. But they're not quite the same. They both represent authority and structure. The Emperor is more leadership and control. And the Hierophant is spiritual guidance and moral authority. Spiritual guidance, moral authority. This is more like, almost like a politician or a king, where this one is more like your bishop or your pope. So they're very similar in a reading. They represent very similar types of men if you're doing a relationship reading. Now, the High Priestess, there's a contrast, because the High Priestess is about that intuition, that deeper spiritual knowledge, and it's within you. She doesn't teach, she embodies that energy and exudes it. Here you've got somebody instead who's expounding established teachings and traditions. So they're more of a contrast of spiritual figures, both sitting between two pillars. So it's a really interesting card. I thought it merited its own little talk, and I couldn't even think of something to really pair it with the way that we've been doing it. I'm going to wind this up. Have a good rest of your day, and thank you for joining my live. If you're interested, check my feed tonight, because I will post more about the Hierophant, and I will post some of the correspondences. Thursday, we'll do our usual 3-card deep dive. So keep pulling cards, keep working with the cards that we've learned. DM me your questions. Alrighty, have a good rest of your day.